Oh. Call this council workshop to order. Thank you all for coming, and I will turn it over to Amy.
As a yellow. It's yellow. I don't know what that means. Hello? Is it working? We good? Good.
I can hear you now.
Did I hit something? Okay. Ready? Okay. Go over the general fund, enterprise funds, draft budget, tourism, and stormwater. Recap of our last meeting. We were at an $8.6 million deficit, if you remember, in October when we met. We said we would look over some revenues and meet with the departments to do some cutbacks, and that is what we did. So we're balanced now. We met with the departments and reduced our recommendations by about $802,000. That was a collective discussion with them. They were fine with increased business license fees by 1.5 to 52.5 million. We've collected 52 million so far this year, so we feel comfortable with that increase. And then parking fees, we had kind of discussed that a little bit last time. So we looked at other garages in Charleston, public and private garages, and we're under market. So we're recommending an increase to transient rates and also to monthly parking for business and 24/7. And then we also finalized salary savings. Any questions on that? So this is what it looks like with the 3% COLA we had talked about as well, the new programs that were funded, and then the reserves and adjustments that we did. That's the general fund. And then with the enterprise funds, we have a balanced budget. Yes.
With that adjustment to parking, how much did that allow us to raise?
4.8 million.
Thank you.
Which we will be looking at in 2025. So just looking 24 to 25, you could see our general fund revenues increased. I can't really see, but it's $13 million. You can't see it's underneath the thing, but an enterprise by 5.9. So a total increase in revenues of 19.3 million from 24 to 25. And then expenditures increased by 18.8, then plus 19.3 plus the enterprise funds and expenditures. Any questions on that? We'll go through it in detail in a minute. Largest revenue increases were property taxes, business licenses, franchise fees, and transfers in. Property taxes just based on increases in assessed values and collection trends. Business license, like I said, we looked at it. We're already at 52 million, so we felt comfortable going up to 52.5. Franchise fees were anticipating.
So I mean,
so that will produce
thankfully, I
revenue.
first, like very briefly at like
And,
I left the house.
Because I have it here.
But I ran into Janet and she was like, you can use it.
Transfers in increased based on the calculation that we do for tourism funds, transferring that in for tourism related expenses that the general fund pays for. And then parking, we discussed the rate increases there. And that is our revenue by category. You can see property taxes, licenses, and local option sales taxes are our largest revenue generators.
So property taxes represent what percentage of our budget? 45?
43.6%.
Wow.
Okay. Not real. It stays pretty much, yeah. It pretty much stays stagnant. Okay. Largest expenditure increases by function, public safety and culture and recreation. Public safety is mostly due to salary increases. Half year, 15 firefighters for Station 22 in Cainhoy, and all new all, just the new requests that they had, which we'll go through in a little bit. And then culture and recreation, mainly due to salary increases, and that is mostly parks. Just so you know, culture and recreation is mostly parks. New budgeting system allowed us, also you'll see general government decreased by a lot, but that is because of our new budgeting software that we have, where we can allocate expenses, citywide expenses better to individual departments. So that is why that decreased so much. A good example of that would be salaries. And then expenditures by function, you see public safety is more than half. Well, not really more than half, it's 52%, 55%, 55%.
That is more than half.
Yes, it is more than half. I'm getting revenue versus, yeah, so. Any questions on that? Okay. Largest increases by department, fire, mostly salaries, police salaries, and public service, new equipment and additional staffing. Any questions? Okay. And that's expenditures by department, just so you can see. Again, fire and police, parks and public service are the largest for us. Okay. Yes.
I guess it's in there, but do we have pay raises calculated in there?
Mhm.
And what percentage is that?
That's a 3% COLA.
Okay, thank you.
So what's included, we had $18.9 million in new requests this year. We funded 10 million, so about 52.8% of the requests we funded. Staffing, there was 81.5 FTEs requested, and we funded 52.5 FTEs. Summary, BFRC, one senior data analyst position. These are the things that we funded. Executive is one deputy prosecutor. That's replacing contracted prosecutors. One media relations, says metal, specialist, and one staff auditor. And then fire, we have 3 division battalion chiefs, so they've been asking for that for the last few years. That was something really we needed to fund. 15 firefighters for Station 22 for half the year. 2 staff instructors, if I could speak today, that would really help. I'm sorry. 2 fleet positions, medical quality assurance officer, and 1 senior deputy fire marshal. And then just equipment and supplies that they asked for. Housing and community development, they asked for 1 special advisor, and then we funded grant positions that they have been asking over the last few years. The positions that are funded with a grant, we're now funding with a general fund, so they can utilize those grant funds for other things. IT, 1 web developer, and then just normal projects to update and improve our systems and make sure they're relevant and safe. Livability and tourism, 1 financial empowerment coordinator, 1 senior tourism officer, and then the small business expo. We had a grant for that last year, which we don't have this year, so we're funding that with the general fund. Parks has 1 horticulture crew, 1 juvenile tree pruning crew, and 1 urban forestry technician, and then other various repairs and improvements to city facilities. Planning and preservation, which is really just that whole section, a senior zoning planner, 1 short-term rental coordinator, a preservation permit technician, a director of development services, senior combination inspector, plan review supervisor, a development and construction services coordinator, and upgrades to various positions. And all of those in that bullet are within the permit center, just so you know that. And then police, supplies and equipment needed for their new DNA lab to help them get accredited for that. And then the expansion of the mounted patrol unit. Public services asked for a data analyst, 1 lead senior driver for street sweeping, and 1 streets and sidewalks crew. And then upgrade to their routeware software, and then just various equipment and vehicle requests. And then an increase to the sidewalk funds, repair, maintenance funds, yes.
On the streets and sidewalks crew, Mr. Mayor, maybe this is a question for you, but 2 or 3 months ago, we had a procurement out to privatize or do some of the streets and sidewalks repairs under like a unit price allowance with a private contractor. So are we trying to outsource that to private contractors? Are we But what happened with that procurement? Because I think I was on the selection committee and it got canceled, so I was just trying to find out where that stands. Does anybody know?
We have both. So there's contracted services and this will allow us to do more internal. Sorry. Oh, Mr. Ellis.
Hey, Mr. Alpha. I didn't even see you.
Come to the microphone.
So we still have that IDC. Since there was only 2 applicants, the same 2 that we had last year, we just went ahead with the contract for both.
But to answer the question, we are outsourcing still and increasing internals.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Recreation asked for one rec track and web track coordinator, which will also help them with Workday because for recreation, it's hardest for them in their scheduling. So this will help them with that. And then golf course repair maintenance funds. And we funded everything the golf course asked for, just in case you're wondering. And then traffic and transportation asked for a traffic management center operator, a signs and marking crew, 1 code enforcement officer, and 2 parking safety officers. We have a East Bay broad traffic signal upgrade, Maybank and River Road, smart signals technology, and then other various equipment and vehicle needs. Get ready. Any questions there? Okay. Next steps. We need to send the millage and budget information to the paper tomorrow to advertise in Sunday's paper. The draft budget is due to you all on Tuesday next week, and then that's it. Any questions? So you have a paper copy of the draft budget next week in your, not really paper, digital, in your emails. Okay. Okay, so moving on to tourism funds, if everybody's okay with that, okay? State aid tax, we're estimating 11.2 million, muni 11.9, hospitality at 27 million for a total of 50.1 million in tourism funds for 2025. State accommodations tax, what's included is the normal contribution to CVB as required by state law, the transfer into the general fund that's required by state law. There's debt service, our city-sponsored events, which is Piccolo, Moja, the Farmers Market, Holiday, Charleston, all of those. Some visitor center operations, including maintenance and repairs, the DASH, and then we have reserved 15% for workforce housing as well. The remaining will go to grant applications, and that meeting with the ATAX, external ATAX committee meeting is on Monday. So they'll go through and select the recipients of those grant funds. Yes.
How much do we have in there for I'm sorry. Was she first?
Councilwoman Parker?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What about, we can utilize these funds for sidewalk, street repairs downtown as well, right?
Not really state aid tax. Those would be more municipal accommodations and hospitality, which we do have. some of
Okay,
that in-
okay,
in
thanks.
those.
Councilman Waring?
Mine was just, how much, or do we have a number yet for Piccolo?
Mhm. I'm
What,
sorry, what?
do we have a number yet for Piccolo still?
Total.
Okay.
Draft budget, $11.2 million. You see all the normal things that we fund, the debt service, that's the $700,000 Councilmember Waring for all of those festivals. And then 1.68 million will be towards workforce housing. 2.3 will be, almost 2.4 will be allocated to nonprofits who have applied. Any questions? It's around,
Councilman Seekings, make sure you use your mic.
Sorry.
it's about $100,000 more. It's
Okay.
pretty consistent.
Councilwoman Parker?
Thank you. What is the CVB, the 30%, that's state law? It has to be 30%. Okay.
And then this is the amended 2024 budget. You'll see fund balance. We use that for Dock Street Theater lighting that it was stalled. So we had that reserved in fund balance. So we're just budgeting for that now. And then the other changes are in green because we had a little bit more revenue than we than we projected, we have to increase the amount that we give to the CVB and to the general fund because they're based on calculations. And then the Children's Museum chiller repair was also previously allocated, so we're just budgeting for that. And then the 15% also would increase a little bit because the revenue was higher. Yes.
Did you get any information on the rigging, the stage thing for the Gilliard? There's a maintenance issue, preventive maintenance issue. Now we can talk afterwards.
Municipal accommodations, we've talked about this before, 2%, 1% to capital projects, 1% to property tax relief. What we funded is 4.125 million for Broad Street sidewalk renovations, 2.5 for the Ashley River Walk project, and 2.7 million for parking garage capital maintenance. You remember there's 3 phases to those parking garage maintenance and repairs. This will fund the remaining first phase and then the second phase of those repairs. And then the remaining is transferred to the general fund. And it looks like this. Any questions? Okay, hospitality. Transfers into the general fund for the impact of tourism. That's a calculation that we utilize for that. Includes all the contractual management agreement items typically paid for from this fund, like the tennis center, Gilliard, all of those. And then the contribution to the King Street bid. This is a very long budget, so it's in 3 different slides, but you can see 27 million. Those are all a lot of the contracts that we have, the Daniel Allen Tennis Center. The ballpark fund is just maintenance for that. The city market fund is the heaters, that project that we had talked about. And energy performance is a bond that we're paying. We pay for Entertainment District Police directly out of this fund. And then International African American, that's the contract that we have for management, same with the Gilliard. And then just the contributions to the museums. Any questions? Yes?
Councilwoman Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I mean, sidewalks, restrooms, it's blank. I mean, what are we allocating there?
So municipal accommodations, there was, I just went through that, there was some funding for sidewalks there.
Okay, I didn't
Municipal
see it.
accommodations,
How much was it?
4 point something million, 4.12.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And then CVB and the Downtown Alliance, that's the bid. Any questions? And then the projects we're funding are the City Gallery Streetscape, the Prelo Street Streetscape, and Hazel Parker Park Playground Improvements for 250,000.
So on top of the 30% state law, we're required to give CVB that as well?
We are not required to give them that. That's just contributions that we give for those specific events. ESPN Classic and then Second Sunday, which we have a contract for Second Sunday and for ESPN Classic.
I mean, I understand it's pretty common, like, but do they need that additional funding for this?
Yes, I
I mean,
mean,
but we could use it for something else.
except for yes, but we have contracts, so we are
Okay.
required for at least 3 years, I think.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And then the bid, we approved that already, Councilman Parker, over the summer when they brought their budget forward. So that was approved for the bid as well. Any other questions? So I'll go through the 2024 hospitality amended budget, highlighted in green again. The transfer out to the general fund increase for the Charlotte Street sidewalk repairs. Land sales, that was the Concord Street property that we purchased. We added additional $1 million to the Manual 9 Memorial. And that was all of the changes that we made to that's just the amended that we have for 2024. Good. Stormwater remains 11 ERUs, and they asked for a civil engineer for plan review and a floodplain technician, which were funded. And that's what it looks like. We're estimating about $13 million based on that 11 ERUs.
How does that compare to Columbia, or Greenville, or anybody?
Councilmember, we haven't done that in a couple of years where we compared. We can do that,
Okay, thanks.
especially this year since we're making the changes we're making.
You're talking about the millage?
No, the
The storm.
DRU, the
right.
Oh,
calculation, the stormwater fee. Okay. So like I said, we'll send you the draft budget next week, and then all of these will come to you the first meeting in December. Okay, that's all I had. Any other questions?
but again, just for clarity, the draft budget will be basically what you've just outlined
Mhm.
here. With no real exceptions. And,
Mm-mm. It's set. Yes.
I mean,
Councilman Parker?
it's set, but we haven't even seen it yet. We don't know everything that's, I mean, Tuesday. I mean, you're saying it's set, but,
It's balanced
right,
based on the various workshops that we've had,
right.
and the commentary that she's received. So it'll be submitted, what do you say, this week, next week?
Next week.
And then we have the first vote on it in, first meeting in December.
Okay, so what from the compensation study are we utilizing here? Nothing, just the COLA.
Just the COLA for now, yes, until we dig deeper into the data.
Okay, I think council needs to, like, there will be a very brief in consent agenda items, but if you didn't catch the HR meeting, I think we're kind of breezing by this comp study. And I think everybody should really, I mean, if we don't focus on our staff, our current staff, we're creating new positions, but we really need to focus on the staff that we have, focus on what that comp study brought us. I get that timing isn't perfect, but I really think that this council should take a look, dive a little deeper. I mean, every department, everybody, every district has requests, but we can all agree that our staff deserves something out of this, that some of this information we pulled from this comp study, we can implement. I mean, we can find the money. We can change the budget. We can move things around. We can, right? Yes, we can. I think it's just prioritizing our staff over other things. And if that's something that this council wants to do, I just want to make you aware. Okay?
Well, maybe that's what I was getting at when I asked about pay raises. I was on human resources last year, and I'm not on this year, but not asking to be on. But that comp study has been coming and coming and coming. Can we break that out from the consent agenda? Because I haven't seen anything with the comp study. Our most valuable commodity is our employees. So
I think we can absolutely break it out, and certainly would entertain a motion on the floor for that. I think, yeah, by all means, take a look at it, dig into it. They gave a pretty good presentation for the HR committee. The idea, and it was, Councilman Parker is absolutely right. We need to make sure that our people are taken care of. I think when we dug into it, and we have dug into it, the concern I had was just throwing a number out there without a little bit more of a surgical approach to it. As an example, some of the positions that were highlighted that were suggesting higher pay raises, the scope needed some tweaking. They've evolved over time. There was, again, some tweaking that needed to be done. Couple that with this council's interest in looking at things like performance-based pay. I felt like we should wait, dig into this over the next 6 months. And part of our budget does have some additional work from this same consultant to give us some more granular, specific recommendations that would give a dollar figure. Because right now it's kind of, there's no real I mean, there are different options that we could go with, but they're pretty big swings. I mean, we could do an $8.6 million increase to the budget, kind of across the board, or we could do just the COLA, which is $4 million. And so we're going to revisit this, is the idea that we would revisit this after a little bit more of a surgical analysis coupled with performance-based options, coupled with an overview of staffing in general that I've asked all of the section heads to go through. So there's a lot kind of at work here. And again, all for figuring out ways to ensure that we can pay our employees what they're worth. But dropping a number in right now, I think would be a little rushed.
Let me have a follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Understood that explanation, but in our budgeting, I'm not asking for an answer at this moment, but as we go through that study and we begin to get tangible answers, will we have the will, let's say that happens 6 months from now, will we have, and I don't think we do right now, the wherewithal in our budget to be able to engage some of those pay increases in the next in this fiscal year we contemplated? So in other words, July 1 of 25, as opposed to waiting until January of 26.
I think we will. I mean, I can't guarantee it'll be dollar for dollar. But between the COLA of 4.25 million, let's just use the 8.6 number,
Right.
right? Which I think would be a high number, trying to figure out where that delta might be. I think there might be some savings in the budget, again, through this surgical analysis. And if we decide July 1, which would be the target, that, okay, we want to reallocate $2.8 million to make sure that these are at the right level, I think we will have that option to do then. And we will certainly, I plan on having that discussion. We've talked about having that discussion at that time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How many new positions are we creating this year?
So 52 positions?
52 for a total of, do you know the dollar amount?
I don't have it. I can send it to you.
I still think I'm not sure what the motion would be. I mean, I certainly think we should have done this a couple months ago, but again, it is the mayor and his team's decision. But I really think that we should have had a bigger, more robust discussion. I mean, the study itself, we have never put our hands on, correct? I mean, we have never been given I chair HR and I've never seen the full study. We just had the brief overview in HR. I just think before we make budget decisions and we want to think about employees, I agree that obviously there might be some cleaning up and just throwing one number and dealing with compression. But we had some really great tools come out of that study that I think we could implement this year if we want to make it a priority, if that makes sense, just as knowledge for this body. So, I mean, if I were going to make a motion and if everyone would want, I mean, I can't answer all of the questions because our HR director's not here. I did request that HR workshop sort of be shifted to city council, but it was too late because I guess he was flying in from out of state. But maybe he can Zoom in and maybe with the director of HR can help us through that. But I'm not sure other than that, how to really like deep dive into the details at this point, besides us just looking at it.
Councilman Bowden?
You used the word brief to describe that presentation. That is not a word that I would use, but it was detailed. It was good stuff. I, sort of rewatched parts of it because I'm not a numbers person and found it to be pretty helpful. I would agree with the mayor's suggestion of waiting until we flush out more of the performance-based pay increases. Because I think, obviously employees are looking for more money. I mean, that's no secret, but it sounds like to go along with that, they really want advancement opportunities, which makes sense. If you're a great employee, you would want to be rewarded for that. So I think it makes sense to roll all that stuff out together rather than sort of, guessing about it now, although I think there are reasonable numbers. But my question was more about the stormwater, the positions that are being funded with stormwater. My understanding has been that project managers were sort of the issue, not the issue, but bottleneck, that we haven't had enough. And not sure if we've been competitive with the private sector there. So I saw that we're funding new positions, which is great. I just wonder if, we're contemplating, solving that problem through the pay study, or, where we are in addressing that, or whether it's still a massive issue.
Mr. Fountain?
So Councilman, as you mentioned, council's been very supportive of the project manager positions. Historically, we've had the vacant positions. We've actually had council approve funding for pay increases to those positions, but we're still advertising through the current structure. We did fill our small project manager, not small of stature, but the smaller project manager position about 3 months ago now. That gentleman's coming on board well. We are going through some interviews, hoping for a project manager 2 position, which is the other major vacant position we have. Some optimism. We'll see if we're able to generate an offer or not that is sufficient for any of the applicants in this round.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Just to follow up,
Councilman Waring?
back to Councilwoman Parker's point about the report, we still got some time. So I mean, as far as,
Yeah, by all means, if we can have that circulated, we'll make sure Kay has it sent out to the full report to everybody.
right, and that workshop information session that you talked about, I think we still got time to do it. But I understand your point about performance pay raise and fleshing all that out. Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Parker?
How about, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What about bonuses? I mean, do we have anything in the budget this year or 24 or 25? Anything or are we playing? I know that's something that I asked at HR committee, that if we weren't going to take on any of this compensation study suggestions, then, I mean, what are we?
So there's nothing preventing anybody from giving or requesting a bonus for their employees. It's not something that we would separately budget for, because
Mhm.
typically we have salary savings that could do that. So we don't typically budget a separate line item for bonuses.
Okay.
It's usually more towards the end of the year that, the directors will ask for those for their employees, that especially if there are a large amount of vacancies to kind of help with the fact that they've taken on more work.
Okay.
So
Okay. And I understand that. I just, as a council, obviously working with a budget, I just think we should take care of our employees first rather than waiting till the end of the year and saying, okay, this is what we have left over. Like I said, I mean,
Well, it's not
we're
necessarily
creating.
waiting until we see what we have left over. It's more, when somebody recognizes that they should give somebody a bonus, that's when they ask for it. I'm just saying that typically would happen more towards the end of the year, when you've had especially a vacant position for a while, that somebody's put in extra work, that type of thing. We also look at positions to see if somebody's taken on some more additional duties, and we look at that as well. So there's other avenues that we don't necessarily, we have a provision for salary increases line item in the budget that typically would take care of those things.
So directors can just dole out what they feel, what they have.
They can make a request.
They can request it, yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? We got to jump to Ways and Means, but I'm going to give us a brief 5-minute break before